up, you guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly Podcast. I am super excited to be with you guys today. If this is your first time listening in, welcome. I hope that you listen to this podcast and you go, I like this woman. I want to hear more of what she has to say, so that you go back and you listen to previous episodes. There are over 500 previous episodes, and you continue to come back for future episodes. I put out a brand new full-length episode every single week, and then a shorter episode every single Friday called our Friday Fit Quickie. So tune in. There's a lot of information because I'm not only sharing with you the fitness and the science behind fitness and nutrition, but I also share with you my own life and the struggles that I go through, the successes that I go through, day-to-day stuff to help you with your journey when it comes to fitness, nutrition, and simply living a healthy lifestyle and living your fitness. What does it mean to live your fitness? To me, that is something that Dan and I stress all the time. It's what good is getting into the gym most days of the week, sweating it out, eating healthy, if you don't use that to go and just do life, whether that is going to the beach and playing with your kids. I know that one of my girlfriends yesterday was like, I was thinking about you this weekend. I was at the beach with my nieces and I was able to hold my niece on my shoulders the whole time so that she could go play out in the water. And I just felt strong and I felt in control of the situation. And it was something that her other relatives that were around her couldn't do. So that is one source of, or one example of living your fitness. It could be trail running, going on hikes, going mountain climbing, playing in a soccer game, whatever it is, using the fitness that you build to go feel empowered, to feel strong, and to be able to say yes to cool experiences. So there you go. How are you living your fitness lately? I am living my fitness because I am embarking on a 30-day journey. I kind of started it last week, and I know I hate people that are like just never, they set goals for themselves and then they always fall short. But hear me out. My husband is all about 30-day challenges, and he wanted to start a new one. We've done several in the past recently. We've done a 30-day alcohol challenge. We've done a 30-day handstand challenge for me. He did a 30-day workout challenge where every day he worked out for at least 10 minutes. And so now it was time for a new challenge. He is doing another 30-day no alcohol challenge because he just said, I just need to detox a little bit after a vacation and football games and all sorts of stuff. And then he's also giving himself a fitness challenge where he's going to set 4 assessment workouts and do those 4 workouts for the entire month, just kind of rotating through to see how he can progress with those particular workouts. And so for me personally, because I don't like to just sit in the stadium and cheer him on, I like to be a participant. I was like, all right, I want to do a 30-day challenge with you as well. What do I want to do this go around? And for me, something that I've been talking a lot about with my friends and even on this podcast is how over the past couple of years, I have turned running as solely a personal experience of getting outside, getting fresh air, and just enjoying the act of running because it's something that I do for just myself. And then I did an ultra this past March, which was great. It was awesome. But I say all of that because over the past 2 years of me doing that, I have neglected my speed work and my running times have gone so far down. And I miss being able to move fast. So for me, this 30 days is going to be a test to see how fast can I get my personal 1 mile time. I have a loop in my neighborhood that I'm going to repeat every day for 30 days and see how it goes. I started it last week on a different loop, but then there was a big football game this past weekend. So at the start of and last week, my husband also got a raise at work. So he wanted to celebrate. It was our anniversary. So he kind of put off his 30-day challenge because he was like, no, I want to be able to enjoy this without the stress of I'm doing a 30-day no alcohol challenge. So he decided that he would start this week. And because I do like us to be on the journey together, even if we have separate goals, I decided to, I had my test 3 times last week. And then I decided I'll just put it off and start again. So I started yesterday. And y'all, I have a lot of work ahead of me. But I also have a lot of big goals with this. I'll just go ahead and put this out because you guys are going to help keep me accountable. My mile time right now is, and this is not on a track. I feel like I could probably go faster if I was on a track or if I was running against somebody or with, I guess I could say with somebody. But my time yesterday was at about a 7:50 mile. And to some people, that's awesome, right? And that's not a bad time. However, for me and what I know that I'm capable of, that was a dagger through my heart, because just a few years ago, I was able to PR my mile time at a 6:13. So there is that. So my goal, obviously when I got that, I was doing track workouts every Saturday. I was doing speed work because I was trying to get a PR at a half marathon, which I did get that year. So I don't think I'm not ever, but in 30 days going to be able to get a new PR. However, I do want to get it back into the sixes. So between now and 30 days, my goal is to get under a sub 7-minute mile. So wish me luck on that, and I will keep you guys updated. Like I said, I'm going to help stay accountable by sharing it with you. All right, but that's not what we're talking about. That's just what I like to chit chat about. That's what's going on in our life. Today's episode, we are going to be breaking down another news article. You guys have reached out and said, I really like you breaking down the science a little bit more. I'm learning so much. Keep doing it. So don't you worry. We are going to keep doing it. I am still going to sprinkle in some interviews here and there over the next coming weeks. But in today's episode, we are going to break down an article that I read in getpocket.com, and it is by Kate Bagley, and it is why most diets don't work and what to try instead. There's a lot to unpack. I'm not going to read every single paragraph in this, but we're gonna talk about some stuff. So here we go. You guys ready for a reading time? Nearly a century ago, one of the first fad diets known was the Hollywood or grapefruit diet, suggested that eating the tart fruit with every meal was the secret to staying thin. All right, so we're going to stop right there. And yes, this is how I do this. We're going to read, we're going to stop. We're going to read, we're going to stop. Because when they said that a century ago, first diet was grapefruit diet, it made me go, I've heard of the grapefruit diet. I didn't know when it was actually created. So let's rewind almost 100 years ago, and let's learn a little bit about the grapefruit diet since it's mentioned in this article. Excuse me. The grapefruit diet, also known as the Hollywood diet and the 18-day diet. It is a short-term fad diet that was existed in the United States since at least the 1930s. In fact, I think it was first written, I read something else, so it was first written about in 1929. So there are different variations to the diet. It consists of eating one grapefruit with each meal, along with meat, eggs, and other foods that are rich in fat and protein, and certain vegetables. It sounds really familiar, right? In over 100 years, it basically, to me, sounds like a low-carb diet, but we're going to keep on reading. The grapefruit diet is thus a low-carb diet. There you go. A typical breakfast menu included bacon, eggs, and your grapefruit is based on the claim that grapefruit has a fat-burning enzyme to somehow make you burn more weight over time. So the grapefruit diet does not require exercise, and it lasts for 10 to 12 days, followed by 2 days off, which then I'm curious of then why was it called the 18-day diet? So a little bit about its history. It does not know who was originally the creator of it, though it does trace back to the actress Ethel Barrymore, super interesting, yes, of Barrymore, Drew Barrymore family, who is alleged to have paid William J. Mayo and his brother $500, which is the equivalent to $9,000 nowadays, to create a special diet for her. The diet then became a fad in Hollywood and spread throughout America. Wow. Again, not a lot has changed, right? We look to celebrity stars and go, wow, how did she do it? Oh, she starved herself? I should starve myself. I think some of us have wisened up, but diet culture is still very much still around. Blah, 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 blah. But here is the one thing, and again, kind of funny, that the diet was criticized as early as 1935. Carl Manberg commented that it lacks in all necessary minerals, such as calcium, phosphorus, and iron, and in vitamin A. He noted that many people became ill on the diet, and casualties were heavy around Hollywood. In 1936, Louis Wahlberg described the diet as nonsensical, irrational, and even dangerous. So it's so funny to me that even from the get-go, this was the first commercial diet, and there were naysayers even back then saying, this is not healthy, we should not be doing that. And yet, no one listens to them, right? Because in our heart and in our mind, we want to say, no, this is the answer. This is how I'm going to get fast results. It might not be healthy for other people, but it's going to be fine for me. And that has just continued to grow and grow. So that is just a little bit about the first Hollywood diet. Has nothing much to do about the article that we are reading, but I found that to be really, really interesting. So let's continue on. That didn't stop diets from ballooning into multi-billion-dollar industries in the United States. You wouldn't know it from reading the promotional materials of all the apps, guidebooks, and influencers promising to help you shed pounds, but there's lots that researchers and physicians still don't understand about weight loss. Again, doesn't really surprise me because weight loss and nutrition and even exercise is not something that is still heavily educated about in med school, which we should, right? We should be teaching these lifestyle changes to our physicians versus just modern medicine. But sadly, that's still not the case. So it doesn't surprise me that we still don't know a lot about weight loss. The one thing that experts are fairly certain is that dieting rarely works in the long run. Science suggests that there are many reasons for this, ranging from genetics to the kinds of foods available to us, as well as how the body reacts when we suddenly change how we eat. We're oversimplifying the effect of calories in versus calories out without considering all the complexities of the physiology of the body's natural desire to want to regain weight, says Holly F. Laughlin of the Medical Weight Management Program at NYU Langone. Here's what we do know about fad diets and how they set us up for failure. So let's talk about this. All right. I 100% agree. Most of the time, over 90% of the time, people that go on fad diets do not maintain the weight that they lose. And we're going to talk about that more as I continue reading this. But if that is the case, why do so many people continue to do it? If science over and over again shows, sure, you're going to lose weight in the short term, but it's going to come back. And what are the things that we can do so that that is not the case? Let's discuss. So what exactly is a diet? And it's more basic. The term refers to nutritional and lifestyle changes that a person makes to improve their health, Laughlin says. I also try to stress the fact that diet, to me, does not refer to nutritional and lifestyle changes to improve their health. To me, diet means the way somebody eats. To me, it is a lifestyle. When you ask, what is the diet of a lion, you wouldn't say, oh, he's trying to lose weight. You say, oh, the diet of a lion is other animals, right? It's deer or whatever. It's a good old steak, whatever it is that that lion is eating. What is the diet of a turtle, right? Oh, you wouldn't say they're eating seaweed all the time. You'd say, oh, the diet of a turtle consists of fish and shrimp and algae or whatever it is that they eat. It consists of everything. And that's the way I try to look at diet, so that's not so tailored into my head of, oh, a diet is a form of restriction. Not all diets are bad or misguided. Certain diets are essential for managing medical conditions, such as avoiding gluten if you have celiac disease. Another example not included in here is a special diet if you are diabetic, right? Often, though, when people use the word diet, they're thinking about weight loss. Yes, absolutely. Countless trendy plans have emerged in recent decades, from Atkins to Zones. Some are designed to restrict calories, while others limit fat or carbs, or cut out certain foods such as sugars and legumes. So let's think over the past 15 years, what diets have I personally tried? And I do put myself in these situations where I try these diets, not because I'm trying to lose weight necessarily. Sometimes I do want to try to lose a little bit of weight, but I also try a lot of experimental diets because I love being able to tell my clients, this is what happened to me. This is my personal story. Take it how you want, but expect that you might experience these things as well. So over the past several years, I have done paleo diet, which to me, paleo is a lifestyle diet. And that's kind of more of what Dan and I tend to live our life, just trying to eat a more mostly unprocessed nutrition base in our house. So we've done paleo. I have experimented with a raw diet for just 2 weeks, just to experiment. I have been vegan for 2 years. I did carnivore diet for 4 months, which that was actually just recent. That was last year and into the start of this year. So you can go check out how that experiment went, because I actually did several podcast episodes explaining how I felt on that. I've done the Whole30. I think that's about it. And then I did a body figure competition in my early 20s, and that consisted of a very, very low carbohydrate diet at the time. I wouldn't say it was a quote unquote figure competitor diet, because I think that a lot of growth has come out of that. And now people know how important carbohydrates are, especially when it comes to fitness. But at the time, that was a very, very strict diet. And that actually really messed up my nutrition as an adult coming out of an eating disorder. It kind of triggered a lot of things. But yeah, I think those are the main diets that I've experimented with over the past couple of years, just to learn nutrition, just to experiment. So whatever the approach, diets tend to follow a similar pattern. Most people lose weight for several months and then begin to gain it back, some or all of what they lost, if not even more. Scientists aren't fully certain why this is. The section says Kevin D. Hall, the section chief of integrative physiology. Hello, y'all, words are hard. At the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases. Part of the problem is that dieting is rather tricky to study. For the experiments that Hall and his colleagues run, participants stay at the clinic for several weeks and eat a tightly controlled meal plan. The goal is to explore how nutritional changes influence a person's physiology. Earlier this year, the team reported that participants following a low-fat diet consumed fewer calories than those eating ketogenic, high-fat, high-carb, or low-carb, but had higher blood pressure and insulin levels. However, these studies are expensive, short, and don't necessarily reflect how people behave outside of the lab. So one thing that I think is really cool about these studies is that they do try to keep it as controlled as possible. And I know they're going to mention this in a second, but I'll just go ahead and say it and then we can skip through. One of the problems that makes studying nutrition in general so hard is because people have a hard time sticking to a full regimen, right? So if you go and you participate in a study, how do the scientists know that you truly stuck 100% to what they laid out in front of you? And how much did you kind of wiggle off and back, or like back and forth off of that meal plan, right? So having the participants actually stay in a clinic was pretty cool, trying to keep all of the parts aligned for the study, but obviously they were able to get outside of the lab. So did they do things differently then? And I think that it's also interesting that having a low-fat diet gave you higher blood sugar, which also makes sense because if you are on a low-fat diet, you're not paying any attention to your carbohydrates and you can still have a high sugar intake of added sugar. So a lot of foods that are deemed low-fat, what they do is they remove the fat out of that item, but then they pump it full of sugar so that it still keeps its flavor, because fat is very delicious, right? So if you take fat away from something, you still have to make it taste good somehow. And so they do that with real and artificial sugars. So it's really no surprise at all that participants that were on a low-fat diet had higher blood sugar and insulin levels than participants who are on a high-fat, low-carb, because it's that carbohydrate intake that's really getting the most effect here. Blah, blah, blah. Most common and real-world studies are in which people are randomly assigned one diet or another, tracked over time. In one such clinical trial nicknamed Diet Fits, Stanford University researchers followed more than 600 adults for a year and found no significant difference in weight loss between those that were told to adopt a low-fat diet compared with a low-carb one. And that's because calories in versus calories out. One might be a little bit more, one group might feel a little bit better than the other. I would guess that the low-carb group probably felt better on a day in and day out versus the low-fat group, simply because they were able, even though they're eating the same calories, they're getting more of their calories from fat, which is a satiating macronutrient, as well as protein, right? Those two things are going to keep you fuller longer. And the one with the low fat are eating mostly carbohydrates, which I'm going to also guess they were eating probably more vegetables, more fiber, which can keep you fuller longer, the fiber intake, but that's probably not what they were focusing on. And it's going to get digested out of your system. You're going to be hungry more often. So I would wonder if they did more of that kind of study. I'd have to look that up. These kind of studies also have drawbacks. It's rare that the trials to last longer than a year or two. Well, yeah, because it's hard to find people to truly commit, right, longer than that. And Hall says, and researchers have little way of knowing for sure how well people are sticking to their assigned diets because we are not lab rats. We go out and we live our lives. Yeah, exactly what I mentioned. It's not easy to disentangle whether people regain weight because they aren't following the diet as strictly as they did in the beginning, or if there's something other underlying physiological reason. Also puzzling is the small minority of participants in diet studies who actually do manage to lose weight and keep it off. Here's his quote, and then I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. We don't know whether or not a diet was effective for the person because of the sort of biological reason, or whether or not it was more about the social reports and being in the right place at the right time of their life to sustain change. That's what Hall says. Another conundrum, he says, is whether these people would have been equally successful if they'd been assigned to a different diet. So weight is complicated, and they go on to talk about this. And I'm not going to read so much about what they say, though I guess I can read through it real fast. But the gist of it is this. If you put yourself on such a controlled, hard diet where you are removing an entire food group and you say, I'm going to stay on this until I lose X amount of weight, or I'm going to stay on this for 30 days. What happens when you hit that end date, right? You have been so deprived for over time that you feel successful and you're like, yes, I did this. But then the diet is over, and because you weren't following a nutrition regimen that you could continue on because it was so structured and so hard, you're going to go right back to your old lifestyle. And here's the thing about weight loss, and I've talked about this time and time again. When you're trying to lose weight, your body is in a state of not running at its best. You're in a caloric deficit. There is importance with calories in versus calories out. And when you're in a caloric deficit, your body is not running as optimally as it would like, but it wants to. So it says, what can I do to make what you are giving me my new optimum? So in order to do that, yes, you do burn body fat, but you're also going to burn muscle mass, because muscle mass is a metabolically active tissue. It takes calories to not only build muscle mass, but to keep what you have, right? And so if you're not giving your body the calories that it needs, and you're following a fad diet where you're not getting the nutrients that you need, it's going to start breaking that muscle mass down in order to bring your natural basal metabolic rate down as well. So that, let's say you are eating 1,500 calories, which is your deficit, your body is going to work to bring down its, what was, let's say, a 2,000 calorie requirement. It's going to work. It's going to get rid of the fat, which actually does require a little bit of calories. So if you lose fat, you are going to decrease your metabolic rate. It's also going to get rid of that muscle mass that we talked about. So all of a sudden, over time, what was a deficit is no longer a deficit. So you either have to bring that deficit down to continue to lose weight, or you will hit a plateau, right? Which is why maintaining your muscle mass is so important. So I say that because once your diet is over and you start to increase your calories again to get out of a deficit, well, you can't go back to eating what you were before, or even to your original basal metabolic rate, because that would then be in a surplus. And guess what? You're going to gain weight back. And that's what makes things so difficult. So my question, and what I try to push with Plan Smart Eat Real, is to determine an eating strategy that works for you, that you can maintain through as a lifestyle. That's why I share all of my recipes. That's why I don't create just a cookbook and put it out to the world. I create a cookbook that I pair with a nutrition program to teach you how to use the recipes in order to create a good lifestyle, so that if you're used to eating out 5 times a day, I want to teach you how to follow a lifestyle where you are cooking at home. It's taking the same amount of time, if not less than eating out, that you can maintain once your quote unquote diet period is over as well. And then that's also why it is so important that exercise and nutrition go hand in hand. You really can't have one without the other. If you exercise alone, it doesn't matter how great your workouts are. If you don't have a proper nutrition program, you're never going to see the results that you want. And the same thing goes vice versa. You can diet and go into a caloric deficit without strength training, but at the end of the day, if that were the case, you're going to lose most of that muscle mass that we talked about at the beginning. And so when physicians or scientists are trying to really study nutrition and trying to make a diet last, where weight loss lasts forever, you have to teach both, because that strength training is going to tell your body, I know that we're in a deficit, and I know you want to try to lower my metabolism by burning off some of my muscle mass, but I need this muscle mass just in order to get through the day. And if I don't have it, we're going to be hurting in more ways than one, right? And so it's going to hold on to that muscle mass and therefore continue to look at the fat reserves, even though it's a slower process of bringing down the metabolism, to burn off and get some of that energy that it needs. So hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have questions about it, let me know. Let's see. All right, going to All right, one thing that I did not mention that is in this article is, and I'm reading straight off of the article, a big part of the explanation lies in genetics. Some people's bodies store fat more readily than others, but there are plenty of other variables, including their activity level, how much sleep a person is getting, and what medications they are taking. And I also think that that is super important. Those biomarkers are extremely important. And not only sleep, medications, genetics, but stress levels, all of those things can have effects on your hunger hormones, on your sex hormones, which both of those things obviously also have control and a really big impact on how your body holds on to body fat. There's evidence, for example, that a poor night's sleep disrupts level of hunger controlling hormones, leading to increased appetite. And people who regularly work night shifts tend to gain more weight over time than daytime workers. This can be really confusing for the body and people's eating habits. And if they're working the overnight shift or sleeping poorly, they can obviously gain more weight a lot easier. And then I also think about people who wake up super early in the morning, the 4 a.m., the 5 a.m. risers, when our bodies are generally, like historically trained to want to wake up with the sun. And I'm one of those people, y'all. I wake up at 5:01 every single morning, Monday through Friday. I wake up at 5:30 on Saturday and then 7 o'clock on Sunday mornings. Yes, I'm a very regimented person. I like structure, if you can't tell. But I have often wondered, what is that doing to my own appetite and my own nutritional habits when I'm waking up that early in the morning? Because I have more time during the day, then chances are I probably am a little bit more hungry throughout the day because I'm awake more, because I wake up at 5, but I still don't go to bed until 9:30. So I have a couple of extra hours that most people don't have. Chances are I'm going to be a little hungrier than most people, right? Does that make sense? Just because I'm awake more. And I say that because chances are good you might be one of those people. Let's see. A person's job is another big part of the environment. And then it goes on to just talk about how rampant ultra processed foods are and how, they are easy to grab. People can't turn away from them. And I honestly do think that just our culture today leads to weight management issues, because you get off of a diet, you want to celebrate food, wine, alcohol, whatever the case may be. They're just easy grab foods. And after being so regimented with your nutrition, you just kind of want to be like, I just don't want to cook a meal. So you grab, you do takeout, you do Uber Eats, and it just makes it hard. And again, that's why I really try to push lifestyle changes and meal prepping your food and making meal prep easy and cooking homemade food. I always try to tell clients that are like, I was just too tired to cook last night, so we did Uber Eats. Well, by time you decide where you want to eat, you figure out what your order is going to be, you have the food delivered, you could have already cooked your meal, plated it, eaten it before the food even arrives at your house. So I do try to stress that. I remember a loved one a long time ago was asking me about nutrition, and she looked at me and goes, you know what, if you're going to tell me that I should be cooking fish and asparagus every night, you can just stop there, because I don't have time for that. And I straight up looked at this person who I love dearly, and I was like, it literally takes 10 minutes to cook fish, if not less. So that is like the easiest meal to turn to if you are short in time. And if you don't have time for that, then I can't help you, because here is the trainer truth, the hard love. You do have to take time to take care of yourself. If you want to feel your best, you do have to spend at least 10 to 15 minutes cooking a meal. It doesn't require much more than that if you don't have much more than that. You don't have to do a 5-course meal every night. Normally the meals that I cook for my husband and I take around 25 to 35 minutes a night to prepare, but I get it. Not everybody has that opportunity. So rotisserie chicken, canned fish is even great. Eating just fish in general, again, the fastest thing that you can make. Well, maybe even shrimp is faster than that. Steak is super easy. Steak, y'all, I feel like we have steak on a pedestal because it is delicious, but it only takes about 12 minutes to pan fry a delicious steak, to pan sear it. And then you could also cut up some potatoes. My mother-in-law cooked us sweet potatoes where she just cubed them, stuck them in the microwave, and steamed them that way. Easy peasy. You don't have to roast everything. So that is that. So one of the reasons why ultra-processed foods are so familiar, because they're so darn convenient. We already talked about it. While competing, blah, blah, blah. And then they go on to talk about the Biggest Loser. And I don't really want to go into that. I feel like we're all pretty aware. When contestants were on The Biggest Loser, they worked out as their job. Those trainers crushed those people in very, very unhealthy ways. They starved them. They worked them 6 to 8 hours a day on exercise. So it's really no surprise at all that 90% of them ended up gaining most of their weight back because they can't maintain their fitness like that. And when you do start to work out and start to eat a certain way, that is what your body begins to expect. So if you were just to stop, your body is going to change and react to that. It's going to be like, wow, I was used to you getting 12,000 steps a day. Now you're not. Your metabolic health was set up for that 12,000 steps. Now you're only getting 3,000 steps. Your basal metabolic rate is now changed, right? It's going to go down. Stress, we talked about what you should do instead. And just like I talked about creating a lifestyle habit. You can see changes with your body. This article, and I always want to stress this too, because I feel like there's articles that keep saying like diets don't work, diets don't work, diets don't work. You're right. Fad diets and cutting out certain nutritional groups, they don't work. If it's not something that you can maintain, it is not going to work for you. Now, that does not mean that you cannot successfully lose weight. That's why macro tracking is so important, because you're literally showing your body what your body needs to fuel its best, to run its best. If you want to lose weight, you can change your macronutrients around a little bit, but you're still focusing on getting the top 3 that you need with the protein, the fats, and the carbohydrates and your calories. You're just learning how to eat real foods and creating a nutritional lifestyle from it so that when you are out of a deficit, you can slowly begin to increase. You're just simply learning nutritional habits that can carry you on for the rest of your life. But one thing that I really do like about this is that they try to tell you, stop looking at how you eat as just a means for losing weight and start looking at it as different habits that you can put into your life to just create a healthier lifestyle. And when you do those activities, whether that's eating more vegetables every single day, eating more lean protein every single day, eating out less, doing those activities will lead to the side effect of seeing your body change. So some of the top things that I would recommend, of course, you guys listening are already doing all of this, moving your body most days of the week, incorporating strength training, understanding how your body moves, working on getting enough protein into your body from one day to the next, which you already know, at least 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, drinking enough water every day, and of course, focusing on your biomarkers such as stress when you're able to decrease it. I know not all of us can. Trust me, do I know it. And getting enough sleep, which is something that we all should be able to control. It is just all about that. If it's important to you, you'll make it happen. And for me, sometimes getting enough sleep is important, and sometimes watching my newest TikToks are really, really important. And that kind of goes up in the air. But at the end of the day, diets don't work. Create a lifestyle that you can feel your best in order to fuel your best, and the results will show themselves as you continue on with that. Does that all make sense? So in this sense, diets, when they talk about it in the news, are diets like Atkins, keto, Whole30, things that are clearly not going to be a lifestyle habit for you going forward. All right, you guys, that's today's episode. Before we head out, let's go over a workout of the week, because I didn't do that last week. But this was actually a body weight interval workout that we did yesterday. I really enjoyed it. It was 10 rounds of 90 seconds on, 45 seconds of rest. It was 8 burpees, 20 step-ups, and then as many jump ropes as you can get. 90 seconds on, 45 seconds of rest, 10 rounds through. If you give this workout a try, let me know. One last time, it was 8 burpees, 20 step-ups, max amount of jump rope. And if you don't have jump rope, you can also do jumping jacks. Or I did actually 2 versions of this workout yesterday. I did shuttle runs back and forth my gym studio the second time, and that skyrocketed my heart rate like crazy. So if you do it, let me know. Even better yet, take a video or a picture and tag me on Instagram, Kendall Boyle Fitness. If you're not following me there, please do. It really means a lot to me. And if you listen to this podcast, slide into my DMs. Let me know. Let me know what it is that you guys like listening to, what questions you have, or maybe even a topic you would like to hear in a future episode. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment those things down below. Make sure that you subscribe and leave a review. All right, you guys, All of the ways that you can help support the channel are in the show notes, from something as simple as trying Fit Women's Weekly Live out for free for 14 full days, or giving a little donation to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast up and running. All right, I've got to go record some reels before I go live for Fit Women's Weekly Live. Today is our dumbbell training day, so I got to get myself mentally set for that. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. Bye.